Hi, and welcome to video 3 of Blender Basics. Go ahead and start your Blender program. I've already got mine open here. Let's just jump right in. We're going to work on some duplicating, some positioning, working with the G key to move the objects around. We're going to work with the axis to move some things, and we're going to work with the properties as well. So let's get in here and go ahead and click on your lamp. Let's get rid of that, delete. Camera, get rid of that, and delete. Now here's our cube. We're going to select our cube, make that little highlighted yellow around the cube to make sure it's selected, and I'm going to press Shift D. Once I press Shift D, I have a new object. I'm going to place that to the side, and then I'm going to come back to my original object, and I'm going to press Shift D, give me another object, click there, and I'm going to get me another object, Shift D, off to the side, and I'm going to get me another object here by duplicating. Now when I turn to the side, I can see that everything got moved in a little different way. I can go ahead and grab the axis arrows, and I can start aligning them if I wanted them to be flat together relative to each other on the top, and I can start positioning them about with the right height. But as you can see, moving things around is often kind of slow and cumbersome if we do it in that way, because I still need to move things into different positions if I were to make a row of boxes or a row of cubes. So every time I'm moving this, there's lots of clicks taking place, and sometimes it'll be nice to be able to do something a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, and there's ways to do that within a computer program that would allow us to do those things. Because as you see, it takes a little bit of time to properly position things, and we can't always use just the same perspective. We actually need to take a look from the side and from the different sides, and we can see that even though it looked like I was putting things correctly, I'm still off by just a little bit. So we're going to delete all of these cubes. So go ahead and press the A key. That deselects everything. Now press the A key again. That selects everything. Now I'm going to press the X key, and I'm going to delete all of those. Now to add a new mesh, I'm going to do Shift A. That gets me a new mesh. I'm going to add a cube, and then I'm going to go ahead one more time, and I'm going to Shift D, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding some cubes in again. I'm just going to be duplicating my original object. There's other ways that we could do this, but we'll just practice these for now. There I've got a couple objects that I've selected. I'm going to go ahead and Shift D, move that over here. But as we can see, I've moved them out, but they're kind of all over the place. So one thing we're going to do is select my original cube, and right up here towards the right is a little plus button. I'm going to click on that plus button. This will bring out my Properties menu. You can also get to the Properties menu by coming down over to View in the bottom left, clicking on that, and here's your Properties menu here. So if you have the Properties menu out and you don't want it, you can click here and it hides it again, or if you want it back, you can press the letter N and it appears for you. Alright, so now I have my object selected, and I want you to notice the location, the X, Y, and Z axis locations. As I change to different objects and select them, you'll notice that my locations change as well. So if I wanted to take this object and move it back to where my original object is, I could click in here, type the number 0, click here, 0, click here, 0, and you can see that it moves right back to the original place. So if I want it to move right next to each other, well, let's show you this part too. I can also grab the X axis in here, and you can see that my object is moving along the X axis, and you can watch those numbers move. So I can pick exact spots for it to be. If I wanted that to be back to 0, click 0 and move out of there, and it moves it back. I can also move on the Y axis, and I can watch the numbers change, so therefore I can put it in exact position that I would like it to be in. Z-axis, same thing. That way if it's up here and I just want to move it back quickly, I can click there, press 0, and back to the axis line it will go. So now I like that arrangement. I'd like to move the others into a row, so I need to pay attention to my X-axis is 0, my y-axis is a negative 2.25 and my z-axis is 0. So if I click on this object, I need to change that. I'm going to change the x to 0. I'm going to change the z to 0. And this time, let's put it on the what looks like to our left side of the original object. And this time, we're going to put a positive 2.25. Now I have it aligned, and you can see that it is perfectly in line. The sides and the tops all line up. Everything is in a nice, wonderful little line for me. It's all organized in a row. Let's move this one back. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to 0 on the x, 0 on the y. Oops, didn't press the 0. There we go. And then I'm going to move the y, was a negative 2.25. I'm going to double that, so I'm going to go with a negative 4.5. And now I have the same amount of space between my objects. And I did it pretty quickly, pretty easily. It wasn't very cumbersome. It wasn't hard to do. All right, let's go ahead and grab the other object over here. I'm going to move it to the x, 0. I'm going to move it to the z at 0. And let's place it on the other side. So I'm going to go for a positive 4.5. And then I'm going to select my last object here. I'm going to put a 0 on the x, a 0 on the y, on the z, sorry. And now let's go ahead and put this one more slice over. So I'm going to go with my 4.5 plus the 2.25, which is going to give me 6.75. And now I've placed all of these in a nice row. I didn't have to do a lot of moving, a lot of changing, and a lot of adjusting. I knew exactly their positions by opening up the properties, and I could go ahead and change the numbers here. You'll also notice that on their location is here, rotation. If I were to take this object and I were to start to turn it, you can see that my object inside the grid area is starting to spin as well. I can put that back to 0. I can change the y-axis spin and rotating. I can change that back to 0. Same thing with the z. I can make it spin along the z by just adjusting here as well. Some of those adjustments we'll work on later when we start animating. This is also a scale. I can make it bigger or smaller along the x and the y-axis. So I can adjust exactly how I want it to be. Y, we can make it big, small. So these are some of the things that we can adjust as well in here. You've got dimensions and some other things that we'll get to later, but there's lots and lots to this program, and we're going to only learn a few things at a time. So let's go ahead and get that back to not 0, but let's make that size 1. Now my cube is back to normal. Thank you for watching, and thank you for trying this out and getting those skills built up in Blender. Have a good day.